What's up everyone, welcome back. Today is going to be a great video. I'm super excited for this one. So we're going to be installing the RSX Street Shifter with the race spec cables and the all Ktuned with the Ktuned 5th gear lockout. So I've already kind of taken the interior apart. I didn't really want to bore you with that. There's tons of write-ups and videos if you want to see how to take the center console out. So the center console is already out. I'm skipping all of that, but we're going to get started with basically showing you what we got to loosen up. In case you missed the last video or the video of the Ktuned sponsorship that I put up, so pretty much I'm sponsored by Ktuned for the 2020 season, and I'm going to be running their pretty much full Ktuned drivetrain package. So what I mean is I'm running the RSX, the Street RSX Shifter with their race spec cables. I have the 5th gear lockout right here, so I'm also going to be running the 5th gear lockout, which is going to go right in the back, and a nice Ktuned shift knob. So going into the interior, like I said, the center console is already taken out, and we're going to start taking the box out. So before we get started, I just want to show you guys something, some play. So if you have, like, let's say you're sitting right and you just have all this play in your shifter knob, I pretty much want to show you where that play is. So it's going to be right on this cable right here. That's right on your shifter knob. You can see all that play. So pretty much the bushing inside of your cable is all beat up, and that's where most of your play is. So you can have, like I have the stiffer springs. Like I have the race spec, the M-Tech race spec shifter springs in the transmission. I have the Speed Factory detent springs in transmission. So all of that did stiffen up the trans side, but as far as the box itself, the cables were worn out, and that's where all of that play usually is. So there are companies out there that make inserts for this kind of stuff, but you know, we're going all out. So rather than just putting an insert and wearing it out again, we're just going with straight, like, some good race spec cables. And on this side, this one doesn't really wear as much. As you can see, when you move it side to side, it doesn't, the whole thing is moving, not the actual shifter cable right here. It's really just all your play is in this one right here. So what we're going to do first is we're going to be taking these cables off. So all you got to do is bend these guys back, as you can see. So we'll just go back, you know, then we're going to pull this cotter pin out. So we can pull this out. We'll do the same thing on this side. Bend this, pull the pin, because there's pins. Pull the pin out, so that way these guys, they'll be loose. And I already got started on this in case you guys are. These are a pain to take out sometimes. So the way I take it out is I'll start with a screwdriver. I'll kind of start on the side right here, and I'll pry up this way. Then I'll come on the other side. I'll pry up this way. I'll keep prying it until eventually I can get the screwdriver center right here, and then I use the actual cable and just pry up this way, and that's how we get this guy up. So as you can see, I just went like that, and it's already loose. So this guy's already out, but that's how you do that. And on this guy's, it's weird. So what you're gonna do is, I stuck a screwdriver in here, right in this little notch, and then I just twisted the screwdriver, and by twisting it, you're gonna turn the cable. So as you can see, it's turning. You want this to turn that way so you can pull out. So I'll set the camera and you guys can kind of watch. I know it's a little hard, but basically this is how your cable is. So that's why I'm saying when you twist it, you're pretty much exposing a flat spot. So this can pull out right here. So that's all you're gonna do. You just stick a screwdriver in here. Just keep twisting it to counterclockwise, and then you'll be able to push it out. So now these cables are out. Pretty much all that's left for the box to come out is these 12 millimeters. So there's only 4 of them. We'll take those out, and then we'll take the whole shifter box out, And then what we're going to do after that is, if you see where our cables are, so right here, there's a grommet all the way right in here. I'll see if I get a better light to show you guys, but we're going to pretty much push that grommet. Let me get a better light. Just down like that, because then we're going to jack the front of the car up. So I think I just put a hole in it so we could push these shifter cables out. Now with the shift box out of the way, you could see the open space, and you can see how rusty these bolts were. They weren't fun taking out, but we got them out. So I'm gonna clean all this up. I have some new bolts that are a little longer, but I think they're gonna work fine. So I'm gonna throw some new bolts in here. But going back to what I was telling you guys, so as you can see in here, let me get a screwdriver. You can see this rubber, not isolator, but this cover right here. So this is what the cables run into. This is what passes through your tunnel. So I'm just going to try to push this down, and then we're going to just continue to feed the cables until they hit the floor. Then we're going to jack the front of the car up, and then we're going to work on the trans side. So before you start pushing that that grommet through the tunnel, I didn't realize there's some bolts underneath the car that you need to loosen up. There's some 10s, they're brackets on the actual shifter cables. It's too tight to crawl under there to show you. I'll show you when I pull all the cables out, but make sure you loosen those up first, because it's going to start binding if you keep pushing. So now that we loosened up those 10s underneath on the brackets, we're going to come up top and we're going to loosen the cables up off of the transmission. Now once we loosen them up off the transmission, we can push the cables through the inside and then come back on the outside and pull them straight up, so they're not like binding underneath the car. If you've seen all the other trans videos I've done, we're going to take the cotter pin off of here, cotter pin off of here, and then pull these off of here, take the metal clips off of here so we can free the cables. And then, like I'm saying, we're going to pull these out this way. So as we're pushing from inside the car, we're going to push inside the car, and then we're going to pull them out of the engine bay rather than pulling them from underneath the car. You have the cables side by side. As you can obviously tell the Ktuned from the OEM. Now, one of the biggest upgrades that Ktuned will give you is on your on the shifter cable right here. They're giving you a spherical Durlin insert cable. So what this does is it allows the cable right here to sit properly, so it's not binding in any way when you're shifting. You got all this movement right here, which is not loose movement, but it's flexible movement that'll give you good shifting, and it won't bind up in any case. The ends are obviously billet aluminum, like how Ktuned always does, both ends. So this end right here and this end right here. Now another thing that I noticed, as you guys remember, on our stock shifter box right here, we had all that play right here from this guy. Now I'm not 100% sure if there's supposed to be an insert in here or not. I didn't see any trace, so you can leave it in the comments or correct me, but I think there was supposed to be one. But if not, you can honestly see the size difference from Ktuned to the OEM one, and that slop that we had is gonna completely be eliminated. Even if you had a stock shifter box and you wanted to run these cables, you're not gonna have that slop anymore, because the clearance is a lot tighter. So you would feel immediately just from putting these, the box would feel tighter. So that's pretty cool. These clips right here, well, the one clip right here and this one, you can still use it if you want, but Ktuned has this design where these will fit into the shifter box, and you can run the clip, or you can do this and screw this on, and you could tighten it this way. So you would screw this on all the way instead of using the clip. It's kind of like a cleaner look. If you're not running a center console inside the dash, you would see this rather than a clip. So they have this on both ends as well. So you have it on the inside for the shifter box, and then you have it on this end right here when you put it onto the transmission, onto the shift selector. So again, this is lined. Inside of the cables are also stainless steel, and there's no brackets. You don't have to worry about it. I'm not going to transfer this. This is all rusted. They're the same length as OEM, so you don't have to worry about that. But the only other thing is I'm not sure how to transfer this guy over. I'm going to look into it, and if I figure it out, I'm going to show you guys. So what I'm going to do first, after I go over all of this is I'm going to run my cables into the car first. So that way my cables are sitting here and they're ready to go. And I didn't mention this along with when I first introduced this, but when you buy the race spec cables, they give you the shifter bracket right here. So now we're gonna have to do something to this shifter bracket. Let me open this up. So when you buy the race spec cables, you also get the cable brackets right here, or the cable holders. So these are gonna replace your OEM holders that are right there located on the trans. So now the one thing is, the reason you can use these with the street cables. You just have to buy this separate if you want it. Let's say yours was all rusted to look nicer. You can use this, but this comes mandatory, or it comes part of the race spec cables, because you need to adjust these. So if you look at the bottom, you see we have Allen set screws to make some adjustments. So when you're using the race spec, this already came pre-set up for what we needed, but I'm going to take it apart and show you what I mean. One side of the bracket taken apart, you can see right here it says race. So where that says race is, that's the way this is supposed to be located. If you're using the OEM cables with just using this bracket, you're not going to put it on the race section or in the race adjustment. You're going to put it back one to here. Same thing with this. If I was to take this side off, it would say race on it right under here. So when you're using race spec cables, make sure you have these covering the race logo, and that's the way you're going to do it. If you're not using race spec cables, you need to use both, or move both of these back to these two adjustments to fit OEM cables. And of course, if you take it apart, or if you have to move it, put some Loctite on these bolts so this will never get loosened up. So now that we have the old cable bracket out, I want to show you guys before you install this. All right, there is a difference in both of these, obviously not just the adjustment, but if you were to look at this, you can see on the right side, which would be this guy right here, it's lower than this side right here, and this guy is flush all the way around. So when you install it, it's gonna go in crooked. They include bolts, obviously new bolts, but they include this spacer. So this spacer is gonna go on this guy right here to make up the difference when you put it, so it sits flush. Now, if you have a Z3 and you're using an RSX shifter, they give you these other bushings as well, or these spacers right here. You're gonna want to use those. But in our case, so if I was to put this on right now, you guys will see what I mean. So if I was to hold it flat right onto there, you can actually see the gap right there. So that's where our little spacer is going to go, so that way this sits flush. We got our cables ran through, so everything's attached onto the trans side. They're running under the car, and we got them running inside to the inside the car pretty much. And I want to show you guys just pretty much what it looks like, and what I did with that rubber gasket, I guess you would call it, that was on the original shifter cables. That's kind of like molded, not molded on it, but it's part of the cable, so you can't really like slide it off without cutting it. So I cut it off, and I did it kind of precisely so I can still retain it and really try to keep the fumes down from entering the cab, because without that it's just a giant exposed hole. So I'm gonna show you what it looks like if you guys want to try it. It worked out perfect. This is where it was originally, and this is why I was saying like it's part of the cables, because this whole part right here is part of that grommet. So as you can see, I trimmed it a certain way, just kind of following a line, just like that. So I slid the whole thing off. Here's the setup, the way it looks now in the transmission with the new pins they gave us. As you can see now, we were saying there really won't be any binding here if there ever was, because the center is it's tight. So the movement is here on the actual cable itself when you're shifting it. So that's really nice. This is on here nice and tight. There's adjustments here, so you can see these kind of like lock nuts. Before we're done, we need to go over all of these at the ends and tighten all of them up. And then you get a routing, kind of like how our cables are going down underneath. As you can see, the cables are coming out, and this is what I wanted to show you. So you can kind of pull the carpet over to the side to get better access. But as you can see, the hole I cut, and keeping the grommet exactly where it was, it's fit back in its spot. There is going to be that little hole there. I guess for now there's really not much I could do for it. I'm just going to leave it the way it is, but you guys can do it just so you can fit that over. And the cables are pretty much ran the way they need to be. So now what we're going to do is we're going to start getting our shifter box ready. I still have to clean all these holes up, and then we're going to mount the box. Now we're moving on to the shifter box, and the shifter box is only a couple of things we need to do, very little. All we have to do is swap over our rubber stops. So we're going to take these bolts out. We're going to have to take these rubber inserts, and we're going to just put them in to the four corners. Now I say rubber because I'm running solid mounts. Ktuned recommends if you're running any kind of aftermarket mount, a solid mount, anything that's not the OE mount, you're going to want to run those rubber inserts instead of running their Ktuned billet ones. The reason being is you're already transferring so much vibration from the engine, because the mounts are just transferring all those vibrations to your shifter that you're going to feel it in the shifter. Not to say you don't feel it originally, but with the rubber stops or the rubber isolators, you're going to kind of, you know, minimize it a little bit, kind of to the way it felt in the original box. If you run the billet ones, it's just going to transfer it even more, and it's probably going to feel unpleasant. So that's as per Ktuned. If you're running OE mounts and you want to run the shifter box because you like the way it looks, you want that billet, you know, that billet look, then you could run their billet inserts. But if you're running aftermarket mounts, run the rubber one, run the rubber inserts, and you should be good. Once we're going to swap these over, I do want to touch upon one little feature. So, well, not feature, but check this out. So here's our OE box, and we found a play that was on this cable right here, but now check this play out. I mean, there's just so much play in this box. This thing is just loose, but this is incredible. So now we go to the Ktuned one, and there's no play. Like once I put pressure on it, that's when it starts to move. But just with a finger, nothing. And then with this one, it's crazy. It's wild. So this shifter is going to be night and day. I mean, regardless with the short shifting, just the feel, the response we're going to get out of this shifter, I can't wait. So let's talk about adjustments now, because this is very crucial. So this you're going to have 3 adjustments here for this. This one is only the one that goes in right here. So these are your adjustments for how short your shift is going to be. Top one is going to be your shortest throw. Bottom one is going to be close to stock, a little longer, and this is going to be a medium throw. So whichever one you decide to use, I'm assuming if you're running this box, you want the shortest throw shifter you can get. We're going to put it on the top one here, but once we put it on this top one, we have to adjust this lower bracket right here so we don't bind our cable up. So if you're choosing your shortest throw shifter, you're going to want to move this guy all the way up to the right side like that. If you choose your middle setting, this one you're going to kind of set it to the center a little bit. So we're just going to kind of, like, let's say we went about right there. And then if you choose the, I don't want to say the longest setting, but the longer setting of this box, you're going to go all the way down to the bottom like that. I got the part number here for the 5th gear lockout if you guys are looking to run it. So this is all it is. It's just this piece right here. You're going to run set screw, well, not set screws, Allen screws, hex head screws. They're going to go on the 3 bottom holes right here. So this is how it's going to sit. Just like that. Once you line everything up, you tighten it up, and that's it. So I'm going to tighten it up, and we'll show you quickly, or just, you know, a quick feature on how it works. So for those of you who are unsure, what's a 5th gear lockout? Exactly what it sounds like. It is basically locking you out of 5th gear. So I'm going to try to do this with one hand. So when you go, let's say you're in neutral, so this is 3rd, 4th, and then you go to 5th, you kind of move over, and then you go up, right? So you can see this arm right here. When you move over, you go over and up to 5th. So if I put this lockout out, now this is stopping this from coming back. So if I try to go over, I can't, because it's stopping the arm from coming back. So if I'm in 1st gear, 2nd gear, if I want to throw it really hard into 3rd and not worry about pushing it into 5th by accident, I'll be in 2nd gear and I'll just throw it up as hard as I can, and I can't go to 5th by accident. It'll go immediately right into 3rd. So if you're drag racing, before you go to your race, you always engage your 5th gear lockout, so that way you don't go into 5th by accident. And then if you're on the street, you just take it off and you can hit all your gears. So that's a must-have when drag racing. Alright, so now that we're installing our cables, one thing I want to touch on, when I was showing you the cables before, I had them a little crisscross. So on this side right here, that's not going to be on the actual shifter arm. This is going to be your solid one without the Durlin insert. As before, we were looking at this one on the floor. So I told you guys that this solid one would go where the arm is. It doesn't. This solid one is going right here on this side right here. The side with the Durlin insert is going to go on your shifter arm. So I just want to clarify that when you guys are putting this back together. Also, when you're finally putting your cables back, you're going to see it. You need to make sure that this is dead center. So on camera, yeah, you could kind of tell. Well, if I get closer, you could see it's not dead center. So what you're gonna have to do is loosen up this jam nut right here, and then you're gonna have to adjust this. So I already had it pretty much preset to where I wanted it. So we're gonna go back to where it was, like right there. And there, you can see we're a lot more centered. So once you have that centered, you're gonna wanna start this, and it's gonna go in very easy. So we know that's good now. And on this side, you also have a lock nut right here. So the lock nut's going to go on the opposite side of the bolt. On this side, you only have one bolt, no nut on this side. Same thing, once we get this situated where we want in here, with our bracket adjusted the way we needed it to be, we're going to make sure that this is centered in here. If it's not centered, you loosen up this jam nut, adjust it to where you need it to be, and then your cables and everything are pretty much good to go. So since we have this one not locked in all the way, but it's tight here, so you can see there's no clips. Now we use these the screw-in type. I mean, it's so much more solid, and I still got to tighten some stuff up a little bit, but this is great. And after everything is all said and done, here's the shifter. We got it all working. I'm happy with it. And now we'll put our 5th gear lockout so you guys can see it in action. So now we got 5th gear. So for racing, 1st, 2nd, and then we're just gonna throw it in 3rd, and it goes into 3rd, 4th, no issues. Can't get it into 5th. Take it off. We're back. So I'm probably gonna take this this thing out because, well, I don't really need it anymore, and so when I'm going to reach for this, I don't want to cut myself on this. Now, here's the question. Is our center console going to fit with this? With the race spec cable, no. Or the race spec box, I should say. It's not going to fit, but I think it fits with the street version. So we're going to check it out, and we're going to see if it fits. So I'm going to get rid of this bracket, and then we're going to put our center console back. Our console is going to fit, but I think it's the trim, so that guy right there where the shift boot is, I'm not sure if that's going to fit, but I'm not going to run the shift boot anyway because it's all torn up. So if anything, I just want to run the centerpiece without the shift boot. So we'll see. So pretty much the verdict is it won't work with the center console unless you modify it. So like 1st gear is okay, 2nd gear touches, 3rd gear is good, 4th gear touches, and then you go to reverse, and I can't even get it into reverse because it hits there. So we're just gonna have to run without this for now, so that way we can feel confident when we're putting everything into gear. We can reach our lockout fine. So I'm gonna leave it like this for now. What I'm thinking of doing is I'm probably going to cut it like right here so I can retain this this little pouch or this holder right here, because that's kind of when I drive, it's kind of where I leave my phone, because I can't really doesn't fit in my cup holders or anything. It's just too big. I don't like it right there, so that's where I like to keep my phone. I'm gonna try to cut this first. It might, if I cut it like right here, it might give me enough. So because even though it's we put it in gear, even though it's touching, if I was to lift this up and say we take it out of the way, it's not going any more into gear. So it's kind of like my stop, but yeah, I'll run it without this for now, And I'm going to clean all this mess up right now. So now that everything is finally cleaned up, we have everything adjusted, not everything adjusted to the way we want. We put on the cherry, and that's our new shift knob. So I chose to run the classic Ktuned shift knob with the grip. Again, like you guys saw, I've had the Type R shift knob, and in the summertime, I'd always have to kind of like clean my hands because it was getting slippery. So with this, this grip is CNC cut into the knob. It's perfectly weighted, so every time it's gonna keep springing back to the center. I'm excited to run this in the spring, the summertime, all the warm weather, and that's it. Like now we can grab our lockout fine. We can do adjustments if we need to with this open. There is one adjustment that, well, a couple adjustments, but this is up to the user. So you can loosen up this Allen bolt right here, and this will actually lift this portion up and twist it around, so you can actually bring the shifter closer to you or away from you, turn it all the way over here. You have, I think it's up to 200 adjustment positions between this and the height of your of the actual rod. That's up to you guys. You really, after about, driving it, play with the adjustments and see what position is that you like. But I'm gonna drive it, and then I'm gonna see what I like. If this is good, I might drop it a little bit, but I have to be careful not to drop it too much. If you are running the 5th gear lockout and you put this in the up position, you will probably hit it. So if you look, you might hit it there, but then somebody might just say, well, why don't you just put it in the down position, which I probably could, and it really wouldn't matter. So, but for me right now, because I have the console, it's just easier for me to flip it up and do what I got to do. But with everything put together, the shift knob on it, it's just this feels amazing. So we're just gonna go through the gears. I really love this, and I'll do it again for you with the 5th gear lockout. So we're gonna go first, second, bang third hard, bang fourth, and we're not worried about missing a gear. This is a much needed upgrade when you're drag racing. Unfortunately, my GoPro is dead at the moment, and I'm still tidying the car up right now, so I'm not going to be taking it out on a test drive, but I promise you, I'm going to take the car out for a test drive when my GoPro is all set to go and it's good to go, and I'm going to give you a full review on how it feels, not just the installation. This is just how to install it, but I'll give you guys a full review on how it feels, and plus after some driving, and I can kind of adjust it to where I want, because right now it's going to probably feel a little different. One, because it's a lot shorter, and two, it's just I need to find my adjustment to where I want it and actually feel more comfortable. So I'm sure once I find those adjustments, the driving experience will be better, and I can give you guys way better feedback. But I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. I wanted it to give you guys a full walkthrough and pretty much a step-by-step. If you're looking to install this on an RSX, this is the video for you. Everything you're going to run into, because there was nothing aftermarket on my drivetrain side with the shifter cables, the box, or anything. It was all stock. So this is a good example of what you're going to run into. Now, with those brackets underneath, these cables are really flexible and pretty much, like they said, OEM length. So you don't really need those brackets. I didn't put them back on. There is one that you could bend. I kind of bent it a little bit under the car just to kind of keep it, but I have the original heat shield over the header, so they're not going to burn up from the header or anything like that. So that's fine. Definitely leave some comments down below. Let me know what you guys think. Give me a big thumbs up on this video, and stay tuned for the Ktuned fuel rail install, because that I told you we have a whole bunch of fittings that we're going to install, show you guys what look is what you guys are looking for, or what look would fit best under your engine bay. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Stay motivated and keep making those streets louder.